Welcome back. Another season is ready to go. It's the Gridiron Grind. This is Creta 3. Jimmy G. What's up, Jimmy?
What's going on, man?
Off-season's over. It still feels like summer outside, but it's time for some football.
Yeah, it's still hot as all get out outside, but I'm ready to go, man. I'm ready for football. The Rangers are still in action, but we're kind of struggling. Of course, we were kind of struggling this time last year, but we can get hot and maybe go back to back, but they can't take last year away from us. So we'll always have that. And man, I'm just getting geared up for football season.
I'm so pumped for football. It's like every year into the summer, kids start going back to school. It's time to get ready for football, and I'm so pumped for this year. A lot of new changes. It's like a whole new college football. It's like a whole new era. You got a lot of conference realignment. SEC and Big Ten, Big 12, totally changed their conferences. We got a 12-team playoff. A Pac-12 doesn't even exist. Arguably the best conference in college football last year doesn't even exist this year.
Oh.
Well, I guess it still exists. Oregon State, Washington State holding it down. 12-team playoff? And Nick Saban.
Finally.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. There's a lot of people think that's too many teams. I think we'll see how it goes. It's only under contract for 2 years, this year, next year. And we'll see how it goes after that. I think it's going to work out great. There's also talk of moving it to 14, but this is all about money, so it's never going to be less than 12. I don't think.
Right.
I
think so too. Like you said, it's all about money. It's cash. Cash is king. So
yeah. I think one thing we're going to see, you're going to see, so that it gives teams a lot more teams opportunities to make the playoffs. So because all you got to do is win. If you're in the ACC and you're in November and you still got a chance to win the ACC championship or make the ACC championship or the Big 12, that just adds so many more teams that have an opportunity to make the playoff. And then I think it's also going to eliminate. So you're going to have a lot of meaningful games instead of some of these bowl games where people would sit out. So I think you're going to have more quality football instead of the bowls where kids were just sitting out. So I think it eliminates.
I think so too. And Ohio State, we always kind of talk about that 1 year Ohio State jumps and got in, and we talk about 12 teams being too many teams. Who knows? For years with BCS, we had to wonder what if Boise State and what if TCU and what if all these teams. Now with 12, we'll know. And all you need is a chance. All you got to do is get in. Like I said, Ohio State gets in, runs the table, national championship. One of these teams, who knows?
Well, like last year, Georgia goes undefeated regular season, loses SEC championship to Alabama. Georgia gets left out. I think Georgia had a claim that they could have been the best team in the country last year and didn't make playoff. Well, this year, if that scenario happens again, Georgia would be in, and we'd get to find out who was better between Georgia and Michigan. So I think
that was probably the biggest robbery there of last year was not letting Georgia in, and of course there's another team that would argue that they got robbed, but whatever.
Well, we saw what happened in the bowl game. Georgia played Florida State, and it wasn't close. I think it was the right move holding Florida State out. I think Alabama beat Georgia. Texas beat Alabama. I think they probably got it right, but that was just why we need more than 4 teams. I think.
Right, I agree. And maybe too many. They might drop to 8. I don't know.
Maybe.
I'm not a mathologist, but I know money. Like I said, cash is king. And if 12's too many, maybe 8. But the 14 playoffs dead. I do know that.
Yep, it's better than the BCS. I do know that. And the argument, a group of 5 gets in this year. So the highest ranked group of 5 also gets automatic bid. A lot of people are predicting Liberty. My problem with Liberty is, they were undefeated last year and then they got smoked by Oregon in the bowl game. Liberty doesn't play a Power 4 team all year. They have a pretty cake schedule in the Conference USA, so they'll probably go undefeated. And it's just going to be if another group of 5 has a better resume than an undefeated Liberty. I don't think so. Liberty will probably be the 12th seed, and they're going to be matched up against probably the Big Ten or SEC runner-up. So just looking at the odds right now, that's Oregon in the Big Ten, Texas in the SEC. So you're looking at having like Texas hosting Liberty in December. I don't know if that would be much of a game. Same thing if it was Oregon hosting Liberty in the playoff. I mean, we saw that game last year. So there's an argument to be made. Does a group of five really need to have an automatic bid? We have 2 years of it. We'll see what happens. There's arguments to be made the 5 seed might be better than the 1 seed because the 1 seed, you get a bye, but then you're going to be matched up with the 8-9 winner. And that 8-9 winner could be Alabama. I mean, it could be like Alabama, LSU, Ole Miss. It could be someone like that. Whereas if you're the 5 seed, like you said, you get to host Liberty at home. And then it's going to be, if you win that game, 4-5 matchup on a neutral field. The 4 team could be like the Big 12 winner. It could be like Oklahoma State or Utah. And let's say, just from odds perspective, Texas is the 2 seed SEC, so they get the 5 seed, host Liberty. Then they get to play like Oklahoma State, Big 12 team. And we saw how that game happened last year. So you have almost an automatic berth into the third round to the Final Four. Whereas if you're the 1 seed, you get a bye, but you might have to play Alabama on a neutral field or something.
Yeah, Saban's not there, but his players sure are. And Les Miles took that national championship with Saban's last recruiting class and didn't look back. So, yeah, it's like you said, that playing, I think this kind of makes it, we kind of made an argument for the 12-team playoff right there with all this exciting kind of the shakeup. We talk about the team getting in and like, okay, well, Liberty's probably not beating Texas, right? But some of those teams, Ole Miss, Alabama, some of those teams, those mid-level or they would be mid-seeded teams in the playoffs. They could make a run. You might have it's getting more like March Madness where, every year there's going to be a 5-12 upset. And so it'll be interesting to see, like you said, 2 years. So I can't wait. I'm so pumped.
I'm excited. Let's get into all the conferences. We'll give you our thoughts, early thoughts, maybe predictions on the conferences. Let's start with the SEC. Looks like it's early favorite to be the best conference this year for sure. I feel like it's deeper than the Big Ten. You look at the SEC, Georgia has the top odds, plus 180, and then it's followed by Texas at plus 350. And then there's Alabama, Ole Miss that are a drop below Georgia, Texas. And then after that, you got LSU, Missouri, Tennessee, A&M, Oklahoma. Who kind of stands out as who you think going to be playing in Atlanta for the SEC championship in December?
Man, like you said, there's kind of a big gap. Like you said, after the top,
according to the odds, preseason odds anyway.
And my prediction, I think Georgia's going, and I think Texas goes. I think those are the 2 best teams. Alabama, losing a guy like Nick Saban, you don't lose the players, right? Like he's still got Milrose coming back, got 30 touchdowns last year, right? But Nick Saban, you saw a little bit of it when Bob Stoops left. They didn't drop off too much because Lincoln Riley was running the same offense, but guys like Stoops, Nick Saban, when you lose those guys, it's the game, it's the close game decisions that this coach makes versus the other coach that really separates them.
I agree. I'd probably, if I had to pick today, I do pick today on the show. I'd probably pick Georgia, Texas for 2 reasons. One, I think Texas has a very favorable schedule. Remember now, too, there's no divisions. So no more divisions. It's the teams with the 2 best conference records. I think Texas, with third-year Quinn Ewers starting, I think the offensive line and the offense if they can replace the receivers, I think Texas, with their schedule, is set up to make it to the SEC championship game. I feel like Georgia's the best team. We'll see how good the quarterback is, Carson Beck, without Brock Bowers. When he got in trouble last year, he zeroed in on Brock Bowers. Doesn't have Bowers this year, so we'll see how much he improves. And Georgia's got a decently tough schedule. They got to go at Alabama. They're the last week in September. They also are at Texas, at Ole
Yeah.
Miss. I mean, obviously they always play Florida and Tennessee. So Georgia might have a loss in the regular season this year, just with a couple tricky. I mean, at Alabama, at Texas, and at Ole Miss. That's the second, third, and fourth best odds. I can definitely see them losing one of those games.
Yeah, and I don't think. I mean, I tell you what, if Georgia goes through, that's a gauntlet, and if they come out of there undefeated, I think they're already the favorite to win the national title. I don't even think it's close. I mean, you might as well give it to them because I'm sitting there going, it's going to be tough if they can run that gauntlet and come out unscathed. I mean, I think Texas has got a really good shot this year, in my opinion. Pieces, a bunch of key pieces still return. And so that's going to be, that might be the game of the year. That might be the national championship in the regular season.
Could be. Unfortunately for Texas, they play Oklahoma in the Red River game on the October 12th. But then the very next week they got to host Georgia. So that's 2 weeks back to back. It's going to be tough stretch for the Longhorn schedule. Also, like looking at Alabama, I'm interested to see if Milroe gets any better playing under Kellen DeBoer. I mean, we saw what he did with Michael Penix Jr. I can see Alabama being maybe not the drop off people are expecting without Nick Saban. Kellen DeBoer is a great coach. When he's won as a head coach, he's only lost like 4 games as a head coach. Now he was a head coach at I think a Division II school before he got to Washington. He was an OC a few years. Washington. He lost. He only lost like 3 games in 2 years at Washington. So the guy can coach.
Did you see the way he redesigned Nick Saban's office?
Yes, I did. I mean, it's changing of the guard.
9 day difference, man. It's and I misquoted earlier. I said Milroe had 30. That was Dylan Gabriel. If I'm in order. Milroe had 23 touchdowns, so not a lot through the air. So yeah, like you said, it'd be interesting to see what DeBoer is able to do with him. Like you said, turn Michael Penix into back-to-back the best passer in college football. So
yeah, excited to see that. Ole Miss, a lot of transfers. Of course, they're expecting a lot out of the quarterback Jackson Dart. But they got a ton of transfers. So far in the transfer portal era, a team that's predominantly recruited only out of the transfer portal hasn't won a national championship. You look at Michigan and Georgia and Alabama in 2020, and then Georgia 2 years in a row. Those guys, yeah, they participate in the transfer portal, but most of the recruiting comes from the high school ranks. But a team like Ole Miss, almost all their starters are transfers. So we'll see that. A team I got my eye on is LSU this year. You know, they lose 2 first-round receivers. They lose a Heisman Trophy winner. They would go 9-3 in the regular season. They replace him with Garrett Nussmeier, the junior. First year started, looked solid in the bowl game. They got a pretty difficult schedule. Back-to-back at Arkansas, at Texas A&M. They also got to play Alabama at Florida, and then finish the season against Oklahoma. They opened with USC in Las Vegas. Their over-under win totals 9.5. They went 9-3 last year because their defense is so bad. But they had a Heisman-winning quarterback, 2 first-round draft picks receiver.
Yeah,
their win total is the exact same. I think that's going to be tough for Brian Kelly because I don't know if that defense is going to be any better. Missouri returns a lot. Quarterback Brady Cook, Luther Burden, maybe the best quarterback receiver combo in the country. Their schedule's weak. Could this be the year Missouri breaks through?
So that was my team to watch in this whole thing because they'll be, they play in the right conference. They're in the SEC. And they're one of those under the radar teams. Like Ole Miss has got all this hype, but I'm sitting here going, I would be more concerned about Missouri because like that stat you said about the transfers and just it's hard, just common sense. You get all these guys from different systems. Sure, these guys are some of the best athletes in the world, and this rated star, that rated star, all this that coming out of high school, and then they re-rate them in the transfer portal. But you got to get those guys to get together and mesh. You've got to squeeze in a couple years of trust and working together in an off season. So that's why it never works. But Missouri, like you said, that Burden guy, the Burden the third might be the best receiver in college football. That guy is unreal.
Yep, he'll probably be the first receiver taken off the board, first round pick.
And Drinkwitz is Oh, sorry. I was going to say Drinkowitz reminds me of Dabo Sweeney when Clemson was real good.
I like that.
Guys will run through a wall for him. He's kind of young, kind of fun. Yeah, so Missouri is my team to watch this year.
A little nerdy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
the players love him. Yeah.
Yeah. Next three teams to talk about in the SEC, you got Oklahoma, who first year in the SEC, and they did not do them any favors with this schedule. They open up a home game against Tennessee. Their non-conference is nothing. They don't play anybody non-con. No, at least nobody that should give them a game. But then they open up SEC with Tennessee. They got Texas. They go at Ole Miss. They're at Missouri. And then they finish their last two games. They host Alabama at LSU. That's a tough schedule. Oklahoma trying to break in a new quarterback. Defense should be really good for Oklahoma this year. Then Tennessee also breaking in a new quarterback. A lot of hype around that guy. Tennessee looks to try to make a run. And then Texas A&M. They got a brand new coach, Mike Elko, first year. They got rid of Jimbo. Totally different strategy. Elko's a defense, hardworking grinder. Jimbo was Jimbo. Okay. A lot of talk, a lot of bark, no bite out of Jimbo. Mike Elko, he probably not the recruiter that Jimbo Fisher was, but probably twice the X's and O coach, to be honest. A&M, it's got a strong defense. Elko's a good defensive coach. So they're trying to, and they got talent on the roster. I know two of the last 3 years, they haven't been very good. They've only won 5. So they won 5-7 in 2020, 7-6 last year. But Elko, there's still a lot of talent on that roster for Texas A&M. Yeah. Bring in Colin Klein, run the offensive coordinator. I think it's key if their quarterback can stay healthy, Connor Wegman. So what do you think out of Oklahoma, Tennessee, A&M? What do you see out of those three teams?
Well, I think you're right. I think Oklahoma, and we talked about this beforehand. You know, everybody wanted to kind of rag on Texas coming into the SEC from the Big 12, and I go, guys, the team y'all aren't talking about is Oklahoma, because Oklahoma is on the fence from either making it or they could turn into Nebraska and just fall off and never be heard from, basically. I'm like, Texas is going to be fine because they took away the recruiting advantage that A&M had over Texas was the SEC. Now that's gone. Okay, Texas is in the SEC. So I was like, Texas is going to be fine. Oklahoma, that was my big concern. And yeah, like you said, the schedule does them no favors. A&M, I like Connor Wegman. I hope he can stay healthy. I hope he can stay healthy. It'll be interesting to see Colin Klein. You remember at Kansas State, he was more of a big bruiser, kind of run you over type guy. So it'll be interesting to see what his kind of how he and Wegman kind of mesh and meld together, because I was excited to see Wegman with Bobby Petrino, and he gets hurt, and it just doesn't pan out. And but I agree with you said about Mike Elko. He was the coach there when they had Myles Garrett. So they bring him back, and Elko, like you said, Jimbo can walk in and razzle dazzle you in recruiting. Where I think Mike Elko, how he's going to be able to win recruiting is putting guys in the league and going, hey man, like this guy just puts defensive ends in the league. We'll just say, just for an example, I think that's how he's going to overcome, kind of like you said, not being the Kevin Sumlin, the Jimbo Fisher type recruiter. So
then there's Florida. Florida has maybe does have the toughest schedule in the country. They play 8 preseason top 25 teams. But here's what you need to know about Florida's schedule. Their last 5 weeks, they get a bye October 26th. Their last 5 games, this is their last 5 games. Georgia, neutral site. At Texas, home against LSU, home against Ole Miss, at Florida State. That's how they end the season. Billy Napier, 5-7 last year. His seat is hot. That is a hot seat.
Yeah. And Billy Napier may not make it that stretch. Yeah. He's going to have to win. He's got to beat Florida State. Okay. Good luck. But that stretch, if they get murdered, he won't make it out of that stretch with his job. He's going to have to. I mean, golly, he's at least going to have to make a bowl, which, okay, that's just one more win than last year.
He's going to have to beat probably 2 teams that are ranked higher than him to make a bowl, just to make a bowl.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't that those last 5, I don't know. And if Florida State's a rivalry game, so you can throw it out, but I'm going those last 5, I 0 and
Good
5.
luck. Good luck.
I mean, good luck.
Then there's Arkansas Razorbacks. Bobby P is back. Bobby P's back, offensive coordinator,
Right.
Sam Pittman still at the helm.
Time heals all wounds, sir. Time heals all wounds.
Agreed. You know, I like Arkansas better than most people. Their regular season win total is only 4.5. They get Bobby P back. They're high on the quarterback. This transfer from Boise State, Taylor Green. What do you think about the Razorbacks this year?
Man, I'm cautiously optimistic. You know, we lost a lot. We lose KJ Jefferson. Guy is I was excited to get him when we got him because I didn't want to have to play him at Mississippi State. He played great for us. I think it was just time for him, I think, to go on somewhere else. I don't know if Petrino liked him or not. The big loss for me is Rocket Sanders. We lose Rocket Sanders to South Carolina. You know, but Taylor Green coming in from Boise State, numbers don't really jump off the page. It's 11 passing touchdowns to 9 rushing touchdowns. Jefferson basically had, that's 20. Jefferson had 21 total touchdowns last year. So doesn't jump off the page, but I'm excited. They said Taylor Green, he's a big guy, big arm. You know, we've had Felipe Franks transfer from Florida, big guy, big arm. And then, of course, Ryan Mallett, RIP. You know, and that's Petrino. Of course, you know, they always kind of overhype. Petrino's kind of comparing him to Mallett a little bit, but we'll see. It'll be interesting to see. We return Landon Jackson, one of the best defensive ends in the country. Like you said, win total 4.5. I don't know. I think we can beat that.
I too. I think Arkansas will be better than what people are saying right now. 4.5 seems a game too low for me.
Yeah.
So Jimmy and I both like Georgia and Texas. I would pick Georgia to win the SEC right now. I think going into the season, they have the least amount of questions. When Kirby said depth's an issue, which I agree, they're still got a great team, but they're not with transfer portal stuff. They can't stock those third teamers like they used to. They're still maybe the best 1, 2, first and second string team in the country. I would pick Georgia, even though bet wise you're not gaining a lot, but I would pick Georgia to win the SEC. Moving to the Big Ten, the other conference that is people say is right there with the SEC. I think they're number 2. I'd have the SEC number 1 heading into the season. This to me seems like a 14 race. Actually, all the other conferences I think are 14 races. In the Big Ten, I think it's Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Michigan. Yeah, Ohio State's plus 140 to win it. Oregon plus 210, Penn State plus 450, Michigan's plus 800, and then there is a massive gap ahead of USC, Iowa, and Nebraska. Who do you like in the Big Ten this season? A lot of question marks. We'll break it down. Ohio State, new quarterback, Will Howard. Is he good enough to get it done? They got some transfers at the running back position. They're high on the defense. Oregon's got Dylan Gabriel. A lot of question if his small stature can hold up in some cold weather games. Oregon, I think on paper, is the most complete team in the Big Ten. Their defensive line is going to be good. They're going to be real good. Evan Stewart, the recruit from A&M at receiver. Penn State, they're hoping to take the jump. They really like Drew Aller, but they really struggled on offense last year. And, of course, Michigan's got question marks all over the place. Defense is still going to be really good. Offensively, I don't know if they're going to be able to score enough, but their defense is going to be good. What's your thoughts on the Big Ten? Who do you think wins it?
First of all, Ohio State is just baffling. QB takes you to the Big Ten championship, arguably 1 win away from going to the playoffs, and then he transfers. You run him out of town. That's crazy to me. Absolutely crazy. But I have the Big Ten as a 2-horse race. I have it Oregon and Penn State. I think Oregon, all those transfers, Phil Knight's all in, you know, and I think he's kind of a West Coast T. Boone Pickens. We've always said I wanted to see it would have been cool to see what T. Boone would have been able to do in the era of NIL, because I feel like he would have given money about like Phil Knight's giving money right now. He's all in, but I think my biggest question you hit on is Dylan Gabriel. Okay, Dylan Gabriel, we saw him at UCF. We saw him at OU. Okay, now he's going to go up to Oregon and try to replace Bo Nix, who passed for so Gabriel had 30 touchdowns last year at OU. Nix passed for almost 1,000 more yards than Dylan Gabriel and 15 more touchdowns. So Dylan Gabriel is going to have to step his game up. If what we've seen from Dylan Gabriel is if that's his ceiling, I think this is Penn State's conference to win. If Dylan Gabriel can come in and basically have a resurgence, kind of who is this guy? Where's this guy been in the last two schools? I think Oregon will run away with it because I don't think Penn State, like you said, offensively could keep up with them. But I have it as kind of a two-horse race. Like I said, it's going to come down to Gabriel being able to fill Bo Nix's shoes.
I agree. Also, health-wise, Dylan Gabriel's got to stay healthy. 2 years ago, he missed a couple games, concussion. He's not very big. They list him at 5'10". I guess he's 5'10". Never seen him in person. He does not look very big. I've heard he's got small hands. And in cold weather games, I think the ability to grip the ball matters when it's cold, when it's swirling. Looking at Oregon's schedule, it's they got an early contest against Boise State. They're better than Boise State. They got Ohio State on October 12th. That's a big one. At Michigan, November 2nd. I want to see how cold it is. I also think at Wisconsin could be a tough game, especially if Wisconsin surprises and is kind of in it, has a chance to maybe make a 12-team playoff or the Big Ten championship. I think that's a big game I have circled along with the Ohio State game at Michigan. They avoid Penn State. They don't have to play Penn State. But if I was placing a bet in the Big Ten to win it, I would go with Oregon because they have the second best odds, plus 210, bet $100 to win 210. I like Oregon with you. I agree with you. I think Oregon wins the Big Ten. I think they're the most team. I think their defense is going to be pretty good. And I think there's a lot of the upper echelon teams in the Big Ten are going to not have the high-powered offense to compete with Oregon. Iowa, Michigan, Penn State, Iowa. I mean, Iowa's defense is still going to be good. Ohio State, I think there's some question marks there. And Ohio State, you look at Ohio State's schedule. Of course, they end the season with Michigan. They got to go at Penn State. They got at Oregon. They also got to play Iowa and Nebraska. So it's not an easy schedule for Ohio State.
No, it's not. And Nebraska, as I kind of said, they were pretty much fell off the face of the earth. Interesting to see Dylan Raiola, this quarterback, highest rated recruit they've gotten since 06, I guess. I don't know, since they tracked it, basically.
I think I got a regular season bet on Nebraska coming up.
But it'd be interesting to see how he plays. But I'm Ohio State. I just don't think Ryan Day can get it done. That's me. I just don't think he's got to get it done. I'm still mind blown. You run off your quarterback. We have freshman that took him to almost.
He was a freshman last year, and they basically told him to kick rocks.
I told him to kick rocks as he took you to the Big Ten championship. I'm just going. I can't. I just don't think Ryan Day can get it done. And
did he end up at Illinois? Is that where he ended up? No, he ended up at Syracuse. Same color scheme.
Syracuse.
He ended up at Syracuse.
Yeah,
I think Syracuse is going to be decent this year, especially if even if he just does what he did at Ohio State. I think Syracuse could be good. So that's the Big Ten. You go to the ACC again. I think it's a 4-team race in the ACC. Florida State, Clemson, Miami, NC State. They also have Louisville, Virginia Tech hanging around, but I really think those 4 teams, in my opinion, Florida State, Clemson, Miami, NC State. And I honestly think, Florida State has DJ Ugalele. It's hard for me to imagine that guy winning the conference, even though Florida State's pretty good. Clemson's got Dabo, and Cade Klubnik has not impressed. They look bad in the spring game offensively. They don't have the receivers to help that Cade Klubnik kid out. I like Miami. Miami, a lot of transfers. They get Cam Ward. He started in Incarnate Word down in San Antonio and then went to Washington State the last 2 years. And if you didn't watch a lot of Pac-12 ball, that guy was impressive at Washington State.
Yeah.
Now he comes to Miami, a lot of weapons. And NC State has maybe my favorite transfer in of the offseason was Grayson McCall coming from Coastal Carolina. Started every game that he was available. Missed COVID for injury, but every game he was available, he started for 4 years. Gets an extra year for COVID. He's the quarterback for NC State. They got a really good defense. I think it's Miami and NC State for the ACC championship.
And a lot of people, I've looked at a lot of playoff projections, and they have NC State in the playoffs. So
they win the conference. I think the ACC probably gets 2 in.
Yeah.
And that would be my 2, Miami, NC State.
I think I'm gonna go against my better judgment. For me, I kind of had it as 3 teams: Florida State, Miami, and NC State. But I went with Florida State because I think DJ Ukulele will do just enough. I don't think he's going to come in and razzle dazzle like Thomas. What was Jordan Thomas? Jordan Travis. Excuse me, Jordan Travis. Like Jordan Travis did before he got hurt. But I think Ukulele would be just enough. In Florida State, Mike Norvell, I guarantee you, all offseason and all this season, they're going to have that, that bait. It's in everybody's locker room. We got left out. They left us out. And I think Florida State gets it done, in my opinion, in the ACC.
I definitely see it. It's just I've seen DJ Ukulele be bad. But they might have the best roster, honestly. I don't have faith in him. I like Cam Ward in Miami. I'm going quarterback heavy here. Cam Ward in Miami, and I love Grayson McCall at NC State.
Miami, Florida State is going to be a good game.
Yeah. Let's see. That game, Miami, Florida State, will be October 26th in Miami. The other reason I like Miami, they get to host Florida State. And then they host Florida at the end of the year. So we'll see if Mario Cristobal gets it done in year 3 there at Miami. Quickly shifting to the Big 12, the new look Big 12, losing Texas, Oklahoma. They after adding 4 teams last year, they added another 4. Colorado, Utah, Arizona State. A lot of hype around Colorado, 5.5 win total. Let's see if Coach Prime makes a bowl. Big 12, when you look at the Big 12, it's Utah plus 275, Kansas State plus 400, Oklahoma State plus 750, Iowa State, UCF are plus 800, Kansas plus 1,000. I think it comes down to Utah, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, and Iowa State. And Utah, don't forget, has in his 17th year, Cam Rising is still the quarterback at Utah. Utah has played good defense. I think Utah and Kansas State are very similar. And I think Oklahoma State and Iowa State are very similar. Iowa State also has, in his 18th year of eligibility, Alan Bowman's back at quarterback for Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
Who do you like in the Big 12?
None of those teams, Trey. Give me plus 1,000. Give me Kansas. Give me the Jayhawks to win the Big 12. I think Jalen Daniels, if he can stay healthy, of course, if he can't stay healthy, it's over. But I think that guy is so dynamic that if he is healthy, I think the Jayhawks are the team to beat in the Big 12. After that, it's Utah. And I go Oklahoma State because if they can run the football, I mean, Alan Bowman's not going to razzle-dazzle you, but I think he's a good enough quarterback that if Ollie Gordon gets going, dark horse Heisman contender. I say dark horse. He's on the list, but I don't think Oklahoma State will be that good if they can't get him going. If Oklahoma State's good, Ollie Gordon will probably win the Heisman because that means he's running all over the place, which means Alan Bowman is able to pick and choose, and he's not going to have to shoulder the weight of the offense like he did at Tech. But I like Kansas.
Yeah, like so, Oklahoma State has, with Ollie Gordon, could win the Heisman. I could definitely see that. Their offensive line is the most experienced offensive line in the country. They return all 5 starters on the offensive line. I like Oklahoma State this year. Kansas odds are a little far down because I think they have a tough schedule. But like I said, Jalen Daniels, I agree with you, best quarterback, best playmaker in the Big 12. He's got to stay healthy. He missed a lot of time last year with the back. I think I like Oklahoma State. I like Iowa State. I think Kansas State might be a little overrated. They have an over-under win total of 9.5. That's a lot. They don't return a lot of production on offense. They're starting Avery Johnson, who was like their spell running quarterback last year. They lose Howard to Ohio State. I don't know if he's good enough passing wise to get it done. They also lose their offensive coordinator,
Who was a
Colorado
running quarterback, so
A&M. I don't know if
yeah.
Avery Johnson is going to. I don't know. I'm not sold on him. I think Utah has a very complete team, and they probably probably get it done. I'm gonna go with Utah over Oklahoma State in the Big 12 championship. I think Oklahoma State they get Arkansas early, but then they have back-to-back games against Utah and Kansas State. After that, I think they can run the table, and I think Oklahoma State will make the Big 12 championship. But Mike Gundy, he's 0-2 in Big 12 championship games. He lost in 21 to Baylor, last second, diving for the end zone. And then, of course, last year, he was outmatched against Texas. I think Oklahoma State makes the Big 12 championship game again. But I like Utah because I like Cam Rising. I trust him more at quarterback than I do Alan Bowman. And that's why I would go with Utah right now.
I like it.
That comes down. So to break it down, me and Jimmy both like Georgia to win the SEC. That's plus 180. We both like Oregon to win the Big Ten. That's plus 210. I like Miami to win the ACC at plus 400. Jimmy's taking Florida State to win the ACC at plus 275. Big 12, Jimmy likes Kansas plus 1,000. You just win the Kansas one, you're in the money. You could lose the rest and you'd be fine. I like Utah plus 275 to win Big 12. So 12-team playoff. Let's just pick the national championship instead of trying to pick each game that we have no idea who's going to be the matchups. Who is your 2024 college football national champion?
I'm torn between Oregon, Georgia, and Texas. We were chatting offline about Texas's weapons. You know, they've had injury to running back this offseason. They're this spring, this summer.
Ironically, the three of the top four odds to win the national championship. Ohio State is the second best odds. I think that's a little higher than me and you like Ohio State. I think Ohio State's good, and I think they'll be the second best team in the Big Ten. But Georgia's favorite at plus 280 to win it all. Then Ohio State plus 375. Big gap. Texas plus 850. Oregon plus 1,000. And you like three of those four. And I agree with you. I like those three. Who's your pick?
I'm just going to do it. I'm going to make you smile. I'm going Texas. I'm going to go Texas. I think the talent at skill positions for Texas, defensive line is probably my only question. The ends are going to be good. Got to replace Big Sweat in the middle.
Yeah,
I think they can do it. I think Sark has built something really special in Austin. They, they make the playoff last year. I'm going, lose to a very good Washington team. And I think Texas is ready to take the next leap. Like I said, I just think they have the weapons at the skill position. Running back, like we were talking, is thin, some injuries, but I'm sitting here going, okay, you just air it out. Just throw it on teams and make them have to match you score for score against your defense. I think Texas figures it out, figures out how to get it done.
I, of course, love that pick. If that happens, it's going to be because Quinn Ewers was just elite. I mean, Quinn Ewers went to a new level, and I mean, he just balled out. If Texas wins the national championship, that has to be the reason why.
Exactly, because I think if they're airing it out and being successful, I think we're going to see the Quinn Ewers that was always under the mullet and that should have been this whole time. He's taken it seriously. He took it serious last year, and look what happened. All right, he's got a taste of it, and I feel like he's good enough with the weapons that Sark has put around him that it's going to go as he goes.
That's a big reason I'm high on Texas. I'm obviously Texas fan, but I'm high on Texas because Quinn Ewers is third year starting, and when Steve Sarkisian has a quarterback that's been in his system on the third year and the fourth year, even if they're just not starting, like Mac Jones, you look at the leap those guys take in year 3, and it's astronomical stat wise. All the guy like he got remember Jake Walker at Washington? He got that guy drafted in the top 10.
Yeah.
Top 15. He was first rounder. That guy. He got
He went
drafted.
top. I'm pretty sure he went top 10 to the Titans.
I was thinking he went 10 to the Titans.
Yeah.
But Steve Sarkisian, he can get quarterbacks, especially older quarterbacks. And you got Quinn Ewers, who started a ton of football games his first few years. I think the good signs point for Texas because of that. Also, offensive line. It's definitely a top 3. When you look at offensive lines, Georgia, Texas, LSU have elite offensive lines. And you're going to have a great offensive line in front of him. He's an experienced guy, and there's playmakers at receiver all over the place. It's how well will they mesh transfer wise. And defensively, everybody points to, well, they're not going to be as good against the run. No, I doubt they will. You lose a first rounder in Byron Murphy, second rounder in Sweat, who won the Outland Trophy. Yeah, they're probably taking a step back, but it's not like they're starting over. They got dudes. They got 5-star Alfred Collins, who's in a contract year for the NFL. That dude, he's a stud. You know, he needs to play a little bit better. And then Vernon Broughton, and then he got some transfers in from Arizona. I think they'll be fine against the run. They won't be as good as they were, but their defense needs to be better in the pass and the back end. I think that'll help because I think what you mentioned, the edge rushers will be better for Texas. They got Trey Moore. Trey Moore had 14 sacks last year at UTSA. Now, it's a step up in competition, but he's projected to be a second-round draft pick. So, and they got Barron Sorrell. This will be his 4th year there. Ethan Burke had 3 sacks last year against Alabama alone, or 2.5. And then they got Anthony Hill, the linebacker. He also had 2.5 sacks against Alabama last year. So I think the pass rush is what will help Texas. As much as I love that, I'm not picking that. I'm going to pick Georgia.
You pick Arkansas, and we'll just call it a show.
We could. That would be. Let's see. I'm scrolling to see if Arkansas has odds. They do. Plus 25,000 for Arkansas to win. $100 to win 25,000.
Let's go, dude.
That's late. I would make that bet. That's not a bad bet. I mean, you had an extra.
It's not going to happen, but
to lose. I'm going to go with Georgia because we just looked this up before we went on air. The national championship is in Atlanta. I think it's a big factor. I was leaning Oregon, but I think it's going to be Georgia versus Oregon for the national championship. I like Georgia because it's a preseason pick. Not a lot of money there, so not a lot of value to make that bet. Georgia's plus 280. Yours is way better at plus 850. But you're asking me to make it here in August for a game that's going to be played in January. A lot of game ball to be played between now and then. I'd pick Georgia to win it. Maybe not as much value as you'd want in the national championship pick. But I'd pick Georgia right now. Heisman, not even because it's pointless to pick a preseason Heisman because we have no idea.
Right.
If you pick Jaden Daniels for the season last year, you're lying. And it's like that every year. There's no clue who's going to win the Heisman.
Lamar Jackson, that year, Lamar Jackson won.
Exactly.
He didn't even have odds to start the year. So I'm going, it just, you can't ever tell. I mean, dude, it might be, the Heisman now, as opposed to it being the best player on the best team, the Heisman, I think, has gotten a lot more fair. You saw Jaden Daniels win it last year on an LSU, 9-win LSU team. Not in playoffs, not national championship contenders, just 9-3, best player in college football. Ollie Gordon, maybe, like you said, experienced offensive line, most experience in the league, in the nation, excuse me. And I think if they can get him going, I think he's got a really good shot to win the Heisman. Like you said, injuries on the line or him himself, but that's kind of if I had to pick one, a preseason pick would be Ollie Gordon.
Yep. Yeah, I can definitely see it. He put up huge numbers last year, leading rusher in the country. That offensive line, Oklahoma State, they're not as talented as those 3 offensive lines I mentioned earlier, but they're even more experienced. And that matters, especially it'll matter in the Big 12. So I think Ollie Gordon has a huge year. All right, last part of the show, our bets that we place for the regular season win totals. Now, keep in mind, these are only for the 12 regular season games. And there's a caveat. It depends on where you place your bets. All games must be played for it to count. So even if it wouldn't benefit you, like if you had the over and they've already hit the over, but somehow the last game of the season gets canceled, the book might try not to pay you, even though that game would not have mattered whether you won or lost that bet. So you got to keep that in mind when you place these bets. Also, the toughest part about these bets, regular season win total bets, is injuries. We have no idea. You can't predict injuries that might happen in November. So you got to keep that in mind. I always try to keep that in mind. Well, let's say they lose their quarterback for a game or two. How's that going to affect it? So you got to keep that in mind. Since we've been talking, I've added one. So, Jimmy, I'll let you start. Who you like as your regular season win total bets?
I've got 5 of them, and I'm going to start with LSU under 9.5. Like you said, 2 first-round receivers, Heisman Trophy winning quarterback gone. That's a lot to replace. Brian Kelly, a heck of a coach. Louisiana, hotbed for talent. LSU always recruits well. You went 9-3 with a Heisman Trophy winner and 2 first-round wide receivers. That's kind of what LSU does. Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry on the same team. You'd think, oh man, they probably just balled out. Now they kind of underachieved. I think it's the same thing happens here. Give me LSU under 9.5 total wins.
So that right now, it's a high payout at minus 185, which that's a lot. You got to bet 185 to win 100. But I agree. I'll also have that written down. For all the same reasons you said, I like LSU under 9.5. Now, there's another bet. I don't know if you end up picking it or not. There's another bet that we both like. I'm not going to take it because you'd have to lay 250 to win 100, and it's too much. But you might have it on your sheet still. But I agree with you. Love LSU. I think their cap is 9-3, which they go 9-3, you win this bet. I think they're 8-9 win team. So under 9.5, I agree with LSU there. Okay, what's your second one?
Second one, Iowa over 7.5. Defense, we know what their defense is going to do. Offensively, I think they're going to be a little bit better. I think the growth on offense and that same old defense returning, and I think there's just some good karma. I think one of the coolest traditions in college football is the wave to the Children's Hospital that Iowa does, and I think Iowa goes over 7.5.
Okay. You got to lay 225 for that one. As of right now, that's a lot of dough. I do like it though. Iowa plays elite defense. There's no doubt about it. I think they got a new offensive coordinator. They're going to give Cade McNamara the shot first. I don't think he's their best quarterback. I think the backup kid is, and he'll win the job. Can't think of his name, but the kid from Iowa, I think he's going to. Sounds like they're going to start McNamara. I can look that up real quick. I think the other guy ends up winning the job, and I think he will end up being the starting quarterback, hopefully sooner rather than later. And I think once that happens, I think Iowa will roll because they're going to play great defense. All about Iowa is the turnover. So the kid I'm talking about at Iowa here, I got my Phil Steele magazine picking up. It's the kid from the transferred in for Northwestern, Brendan Sullivan. I think he ends up beating out McNamara, and I think he'll be better. Also hear good things about the third string guy, the Marco Lanez. Big kid, strong arm, perfect for Iowa. Midwest can be cold, windy. You need big hands. That kid's 6'5", I think. So anyway, I like the Iowa bet. I think they're going to play great defense. If they don't turn the ball over, I think they're going to be good. All right, my next one, I'm going to go with an over. It's going to be NC State.
Ooh.
I like Grayson McCall. We talked about him earlier. I think NC State makes the ACC championship, and I think they make the playoff. NC State right now is 8.5. Okay, and this is one of those. So it's over 8.5 at minus 165. Okay, they got 2 really tough games in the first 4 weeks. Okay, they play Tennessee, neutral field in Charlotte, and then they play Clemson. Okay, let's say they lose both of those games. Well, they'd be 2-2. But then the rest of their schedule, they don't play anybody that's close as far as odds in the ACC. I really think NC State can win 10 games this year. And even if we get to 9, that's a winner because it's 8.5 right now. So I like NC State over 8.5, and the payout it's minus 165. So got to lay 165 for a return on 100. But I really like NC State over 8.5.
I like it. I like it. I might add that to my list too. That I think they're going to surprise some people this year. That's a great bet. Next one I have North Carolina over 7.5. They lose Drake May to the NFL, but Mac Brown, he's had North Carolina rolling almost since he's been back. I think it's more of the same this year, and I think they can win 8, 9 games themselves against the ACC. So there's not that many good teams in it, and I think North Carolina is one of the better teams, and I think they're probably an 8-win team. I think we just barely cover that one, but I still think we cover it.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, Mac Brown is at his best when he's underrated. No one's talking about North Carolina. They lose Drake May. No one's talking about North Carolina. Mac recruits really well. He's always done that. I think North Carolina's gonna be a sneaky good team. I think they can get to 8 wins for sure. That's a minus 125, so you don't gotta lay a lot. So I like that bet a lot. And I considered it, but I'm gonna go with this other one instead. Same win total, Nebraska. I think Nebraska
Ooh.
over 7.5. I love this bet. I think Nebraska is going to play some good football this year. I think they get to 8 wins, possibly even 9. You only got to lay 135. But the story with Nebraska, they have a great start. And if you can get Nebraska undefeated headed into that Ohio State game, I think you're cooking with grease, with peanut oil. And that was it from Duck Dynasty,
Yeah.
what he used to say. So let me read you the first part of their schedule. UTEP, Colorado. I mean, they're favored to win the Colorado game already by those double digits. Northern Iowa, Illinois, who's the second to worst team in the Big Ten. At Purdue, who is the worst team in the Big Ten. Rutgers. I like Rutgers this year, but it's in Nebraska. I think Nebraska wins that game against Rutgers. At Indiana, I think Indiana is going to be pretty bad again this year. So look at that. That's 7 wins right there. You got to win 1 of your last 5 games. Now, it's a tough 5. At Ohio State, that's going to be tough. UCLA, I don't know how good UCLA is going to be this year. At USC could be tough. Wisconsin at home could be tough. And at Iowa. I think it's a very favorable schedule because I think Nebraska can get out to a hot start, build some momentum, and then if they start 7-0 going to Ohio State, you got to win 1 of 5 to cash this bet. I really like Nebraska. It's a tricky situation because they're starting a freshman quarterback. But I think if he can build some confidence early, and even if they go 6-1, I think we can still get to 8 wins. But if they go 7-0, I love this bet. Give me Nebraska over 7.5 at minus 135.
I like that one. Yeah, it's gonna go Dylan Raiola. They're hanging it all on him. I think his uncle's like the D line or O line coach or something. So yeah, they're hanging it on him. So we'll see. My next one I've got is my Hogs over 4.5. I think that's a little low. Of course, we know what all we've lost, and I think the guys are underestimating Bobby Petrino's impact because he didn't have much at A&M, but also they're forgetting the quarterback got hurt. We've got 2 capable quarterbacks. We got Green transferring from Boise State. Then we get Malachi Singleton, an Arkansas kid who was at North Carolina, lost the job to Drake May, and then transferred in. So I think we've got 2 quarterbacks that can play in Petrino's system. And we've got 4 winnable non-conference games. Oklahoma State is the toughest. I think that's going to be a kind of a swing game. After that, Mississippi State, that's very winnable. So I think we can get to 5, maybe 6 games. I think 6 might be the cap, but I think we can win 5 games.
Arkansas 4.5, only got to lay 145. I think they can compete to get a bowl. And if you get an upset, it's not like Arkansas plays bad in these big games. I mean, we were there in 2021 when they hosted Texas, and holy cow. Now, it's an 11 o'clock game, which stinks for the fans, could be good for the team. How excited will Texas be to play at 11 o'clock on the road? And if that game's close in the third, fourth quarter, those fans in favor, they'll be calling them hogs. So, I mean, I think Texas is going to be on upset alert. So Arkansas can upset like one of Texas or LSU or A&M, catch one of them. I think
so. If we
definitely money.
I think so. To our non-conference is Pine Bluff, Oklahoma State, UAB, and Louisiana Tech.
Got to have that Oklahoma State game. That's a big.
So that's 4 winnables. If we go 3-1, I think we can beat Auburn. Auburn's not very good, and I think we can beat Mississippi State. That gives us our 5.
Yep.
And then after that, we have to win one from A&M, Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss, Texas, and Missouri. And
mark my words, Arkansas wins at least one of those games, probably 2 of those 5 you just mentioned. I think they win 2. I think they go 2 and 3 in those games.
Yeah, I think over 4.5 is a little low. I think the Hogs get that one. So Arkansas over 4.5.
I really like that one. I'm gonna finish with a couple of unders. I got Kansas State under 9.5. You'd have to lay 145. We talked about it earlier. They got a new quarterback who's a run-friendly quarterback. They got a new offensive coordinator. They only returned 4 guys on offense with starting experience. Kansas State, Chris Kleiman is great. I love Kansas State as a program, but it's hard for me to see 10 wins. I think they're going to lose a game they shouldn't. They played a couple of tough games. Like last year, they lost 2 that they shouldn't have. I still think they go 9-3, 8-4, 9-3, which is a good season. I just don't see them getting to 10. A 10 with this team preseason, it's hard for me to see them going 10-2. Maybe if they do. If they do, I lose the bet. I think they go at best 9-3, which would give me a win. So I like Kansas State under 9.5, only laying 145.
I like that one as well, man. I love that one. And this is my kind of hedge in my bet. Okay. Pick Texas to win the national championship.
Yeah, this is one we were talking about earlier.
Texas under 10.5 wins. What that's going to do, that's going to cover my national championship bet, because I lose that. That means it's probably going to hit this under 10.5. They have to win 11 games. Like you said, they've got Georgia. They've got to play OU. They have to come to Arkansas. They've got a pretty good schedule, pretty tough schedule, some of those games. So I'm just going, give me the Texas under 10.5, kind of hedge my national championship bet.
I love this bet and I hate this bet at the same time. I love it because I think Texas goes 10-2 at best in the regular season. Too many landmines to see them getting to 11 wins. To go 11-1, I mean, they went 11-1 last year in the Big 12 schedule. Okay, it's their first year in the SEC. Don't forget, they also go at Michigan week 2. Michigan's defending national champs with a great defense. And then they got to go back-to-back weeks. Red River, yeah, Texas is going to be the better team on paper. Texas will be favored, but that doesn't matter in that game. As last year showed, Texas
not at all.
That obviously the better team through the length of the season. Texas was favored. Didn't matter. Oklahoma won that game, and they deserved to win that game. So that you throw everything out for the Red River game. So that's a toss-up. Then you're hosting Georgia. Georgia early line has Georgia a 1.5-point favorite. So that's a toss-up. Slight underdog there. So that's 3 tough games. And then don't forget, they also are at Arkansas and at Texas A&M. And then if they slip up at home to like Florida or Kentucky, I think Texas is 10-2 regular season. The reason I hate that bet, you got to lay 275. You almost have to lay triple the amount you would win. I don't like doing that because if they do go 11-1, that loss is going to sting. But then you'd be looking up to get your money back if they won the Natty, and you could probably hedge it in a way, but to still come out ahead. So yeah, I do think Texas goes under 10.5. And my last one is Tennessee under 9. Okay, and the reason I like it, I don't like it as much if it drops 8.5. So this one has been back and forth all summer between 9.5, 8.5, 9.5, 8.5. Most books like to do the half so they can either win or lose. Well, with teams like Tennessee, when they've gotten so much money on the under at 9.5, and then got so much money on the over at 8.5, They just, Vegas is in the business of making money, so they just landed on 9 because I think they're want to make sure and hedge their bet and win either way. I think worst case they go 9-3 and it's a no bet. But I think if they go 8-4, which is more likely, I think you can really win this bet. I mean, they got a tough schedule. They got to play at Oklahoma. They got to play Georgia, Alabama. Not an easy schedule for Tennessee. I think they might get to 9 wins, but I think they're more likely to go 8-4 than 9-3. I definitely don't think they're going 10-2. I just don't see Tennessee going 10-2. So I don't think you. I think I feel good about not losing this bet. Winning it is going to require them to go 8-4. I think that's a better odd than chance of losing. So Tennessee under 9, only got to lay 120.
I like that. I like that. I mean, you've got Rayola with the big quarterback from this, it goes to Nebraska. And I just went blank. I looked it up and I just went blank. This kid from Tennessee was behind
Nico
Milton.
Imalalea or something.
Yeah. I was
Can't
like, I
pronounce
knew it
that.
was something
Nico.
like ukulele. They're super high on him. Well, okay. I know it's the pros, but you look at CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, they both can't be good, right? I think it's the same thing here. And I think Tennessee is lined up for a letdown this season. So I like that bet. I think that's a good bet.
Yeah, both of them. Nebraska, I'm taking a true freshman quarterback, but their schedule is in such a way, and I think Matt Rule is a good coach. I
Mm-hmm.
think their schedule helps the freshman quarterback, because especially early. Their first couple games are not tough. I think Nebraska. So Tennessee's got a tough schedule. Starting a first year starter, second year player. I think, and I think he's going to have flashes. He's going to have some moments, but they'd have to go 10-2 to win that. That means they're going to have to definitely to do that. They have to beat one of Alabama, Georgia, and then also they're at Oklahoma. Oklahoma's going to be fired up. It's their first SEC game. It's at home. That's going to be Tennessee's first road game, true road game, and it's going to be that kid's first start in the SEC and his first road start. I don't know what the line. There's not a line on the OU Tennessee game yet, but if Tennessee's favored, I will be hammering OU in that game.
Yeah, and like you said, it's tough. Tennessee's gonna have a lot of expectations, whereas Rayola at Nebraska is not going to, and I think he'll get the benefit of the doubt, where he's not going, oh, I'm probably gonna get pulled with his uncle being on the coaching staff. I think they'll let him, I think Rule will let him go, so I think he'll be comfortable there. But I think the Flying Hawaiian there in Tennessee, I think he's got a lot of expectations, and I just don't think they're going to live up to it. I just think this is one of those down years, Tennessee, and going back again, it's a lot of juice, but going back to my Texas bet, it's Texas, first year in the SEC. All these SEC schools have had to hear for a couple years now is Texas coming in, and Texas is going to do this and that. Longhorn fans are saying, we're going to run the SEC. SEC guys are going, no, you're not. So Texas is going to get everybody's best game, which even more so, like you said, I think makes that under 10.5 even sweeter. And then something that I got allergies, so I guess I got brain fog. I can technically win both. We can go 10-2.
10-2 is still a good season. They still could make the SEC championship at 10-2. I mean, they could lose at
win the national championship. I think I'm switching my opinion around. I think I win both of those.
It's possible. I think it's possible. What if Texas, Georgia play 3 times this year in Austin? I kind of think Texas might win the Georgia game in Austin. And then I think if they match up in the SEC championship, I would pick Georgia. And then if they met again in the playoff, I would again pick Georgia. The only thing I like about the Texas Georgia game in Austin, it's right after the Red River game. What does Texas have in the tank after an emotional game? It's a 1 week. You got to turn around. I mean, that game's over Saturday. As soon as the bus gets back to Austin, you got to put it behind you no matter what happens. And that's hard to do with that Red River game. So, yeah, you could win both. I just don't like the money on the under. I think comfort wise on the number 10.5. I think their max record's 10-2. They might go 9-3.
And you might be right. You might be right about that Georgia game because, like you said, Brock Bowers being gone, that was Carson Beck's safety net, just like Gronk was to Brady. And I'm sitting here going, it's going to be. We'll know that Georgia. When does Texas play Georgia?
They play them October 19th, and so earlier, a
Yeah.
few weeks before that, Georgia's on the road at Alabama, and then
So go ahead.
they'll already have kind of been tested a little bit.
Hmm.
Georgia has a tricky schedule this year. I don't think they go undefeated in the regular season.
And we'll be able to see how Georgia looks without Brock Bowers. Does Carson Beck have another safety net?
Yeah,
I mean, golly, I still can't believe we still talk about it. He's not even there anymore. Still can't believe AD Mitchell transferred. Guy was a stud. Georgia goes to Texas, is a stud
had
at
a,
Texas.
had a
So
kid,
I'm going,
had a kid in Houston, needed to get closer to home.
I get it. I get you. Do what you got to do, man. But I'm sitting here going, Georgia, like you said, they don't, with transfer, they can't retain all that depth. Now they, like you said, pretty good 1 and 2.
1 and 2
But
is
I
still
think,
good.
yeah, the absence of that safety net, and you saw Alabama with young receivers in that in the playoff where it just or national championship where it just wasn't hitting, and you had stuff off, and I'm going, okay, I could see some of that happening this year to Georgia. So I'm just reaffirming my Texas under and my Texas national championship. So I
Hey,
like
we'll
it. That's my
be pretty
thoughts.
pumped if that happens. If the
Yeah.
natty one comes true. Well, that'll do. That's our first episode of the season, our preseason episode. Kind of different format this year. We're only going to do. Last year we did a college podcast and an NFL Cowboys podcast, but time constraints. We both work full-time jobs, and it's just difficult to record 2 shows, edit 2 shows, get them up on time. Stuff comes up,
Conflicting commitments.
conflicting commitments, families, stuff. It's hard to record on 2 different nights, edit the shows, get them uploaded, get them where they need to be on time. So we're only going to do 1 show a week. Now they might be a little bit longer. They might be closer to an hour like this one. But we'll talk college football the first couple weeks. Next week we'll be back with our week 1 bets, and then when the NFL starts, we'll mix them both in. We'll talk NFL, we'll talk Cowboys, college football. We'll probably always do college first, then talk Cowboys, NFL, and then do our picks at the end like we always have. But then we're still doing I think that was our first year ever doing that last year, and I thought it was great. It seemed like we got a lot of interaction, got a lot of views on that. So we're going to do the Cowboys post game live on YouTube. We're going to do that again. I think we had a blast doing
That
that.
was fun.
It
I
was
love
awesome.
that, especially we could be in the same spot. I really liked that. And so yeah, and hopefully by the time we start the NFL podcast, Jerry will have paid CD Lamb.
I hope so. A lot to talk about there. And also, as always, so we're on YouTube. Check out our YouTube page. We're on Apple Podcasts. Um, Looking at getting into different podcast platforms. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on YouTube. Check us out on Instagram, on Twitter. Also, our website. Don't forget to go to our website, gridirongrindsports.com. I'll have some blogs up next week, getting ready. And then, of course, Coffee with Creta, still doing that. I'm going to do that this year. I think I'm going to do that a little different. I think I'm going to do that live on Instagram Saturday mornings. I don't
I like
know
that.
the time commitments on the skits, although love them, sometimes funny, sometimes stupid. It's a big time commitment. It's hard to do that. So I might just drink my coffee for 15 minutes, go live on Instagram, and we'll all just sit around and chit chat, get our day started, and pick some football games. My favorite picks of the day. So a lot going on, Gridiron Grind. Glad to be back. Good to see Jimmy in that seat, and I'm excited for football season.
Dude, me too. I'm so excited. I love this. Hockey's getting started up.
Yep.
I'm a Stars guy. But football, man, I love football every year. College, NFL, high school football, it's always fun following recruiting.
Yep.
Recruiting's year round and just following those guys, seeing how it works out, who commits where, who decommits, flips, this and that. So yeah, it's my favorite time of the year. The
Favorite time
fall.
of the year.
It's,
Best.
it
Fall
gets
is ready.
cooler.
Oh yeah, ready for that.
I
Ready
mean,
for it to get
yeah.
cooler. It's gonna be a good time. So, thanks for listening in. Join us next week, every week from here to the end of the football season. from now until the Super Bowl. We're going to be here on the grind, the Gridiron Grind. Like, comment, subscribe, help us grow the channel. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next week. See you, Jimmy.